All right, Imran, we are here, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So happy to see you. You're looking great.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I've had a great summer and you're looking great as well. I love the hat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We were just talking before we pressed record. I wanted to pick up where you left off because you were like, we're so lucky to have your voice on the channel after your coaching journey and getting into a great drama school. I'll let you kind of take it from there, though. Like, what are your intentions for this conversation? What do you want people to know, and kind of how do you want this to land?
Yeah. Essentially what I was saying earlier is that I hope that whoever watches this feels like they have the ability to also go to drama school no matter where they are at what point in life they're in. Because like I was saying, when I first met you, I was very much at a point where I was like, is this even possible? Can I even do this? Like at the time I just turned 25. I hadn't done drama my whole life. Like it was very new to me. And like yeah, you kind of inspired me. Like you were one of the people who inspired me and said like, hey, listen, it's possible. You just have to put the work in. And so I hope that whoever watches this, if they see that, that's what they take away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, that's not just me. I mean, I appreciate that. We're the ones who had the conversation, but all of us
Yeah.
who are at how to get into drama school really, we know what it takes to get in, and it really, it does take that belief. And I remember after our conversation, our first conversation, you went off and you got a great workshop over the summer, and you came
Yeah.
back speaking a different vocabulary, and you just were all in, and you really were a sponge. I think that speaks to your readiness to train at a high level. So, without further ado, where are you training and what degree are you getting?
All right, so I got accepted into Columbia, which is like, whoa, it still hasn't hit me yet. I think it won't hit me until like I'm actually there and I'm taking the classes and everything. I'm doing an MFA in acting, which is again, wow, like just saying that out loud still gets to me. It's crazy.
It's
Because it is a dream. It is a dream, and I feel like very few people have the opportunity and privilege really to be able to do something like that. So I'm very excited.
I am excited for you. It is a top tier program. I mean, it is world class in every regard. And you're going to be in New York City.
Yeah.
I know you're used to big cities. If you wouldn't mind, just for context, kind of give our audience a quick 30-second snapshot of, how you even got to this point where you wanted to audition for drama school. Like, I know your parents live out of the country, you live in
Yeah.
LA. Like, how did this all come about where you decided I'm going to go for drama school? Just a snapshot, if you could.
All right, so a snapshot. I was going to school at Chapman in Orange County, and I was finishing up, and then I started working as an intern at Qualcomm. During this time, I started getting crazy panic attacks and was like, "What am I doing with life?" And luckily, I have a sister who's been in theater her whole life, and she was like, "You should give this a try." Um, One thing led to another. I take some classes at South Coast Rep, which is close by, and I fell in love with it. And I realized, like, oh my God, this is what I have to do in life. Did a couple plays, met you. That was around the time I met you. Um, and then went to San Francisco and did the summer training congress at ACT, which was like a huge, another eye-opening experience. And then, yeah, as the dominoes kind of fell into place, I realized like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then, yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Well, we're going to learn all about the rest right now. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
decided to go for these drama school auditions. Um, I'll kind of, float some questions your way. You can run with these answers however you want. You know this audience who's listening. These are people who are really serious like yourself, who want to get into top drama schools and go the distance with acting. So, like,
Yeah.
what schools were you considering? If you don't mind sharing, which schools you applied to?
Yeah, so pretty much everything on the East Coast in terms of MFA. So I did Yale, Juilliard, NYU, Columbia. Trying to think what else I did on the East Coast. I did a bunch of I did URTA as well. So all the schools in URTA, which was like a lot of UK. The main target schools for URTA for me were Cal Arts, pretty much all of the UK schools, because like as you know, my parents live in Paris, so like I thought either East Coast or UK would be the best because I did want to be a little bit closer to them. Um, and so yeah, so Lambda as well. Obviously, Lambda's the big MFA program in the UK. I really didn't want to stay in California. I know it sounds silly because everyone's like the San Diego schools are like humongous schools now. Everyone's applying to them. USC, of course, is another one. But I didn't apply for those just because I just didn't want to stay in California. The only one I applied for was the MFA at Cal Arts, because the head of their program is funny enough, my parents grew up watching her because she's a famous Serbian, ex-Yugoslavian actress. So that was kind of the draw for the
Wow.
program. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's a great list. We know that everyone's situation is unique and your preferences. I will say this though, just for everyone listening, we give Imran and all of us students that we work with our recommended list of MFA programs, or if you're a bachelor student, of bachelor's programs. But ultimately, like we support you no matter what your list ends up being. A lot of people kind of like don't apply to like Yale or Columbia or whatever it may be, because of self doubt.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't, afford it, or if it's free tuition, I can't get in, or I can't do this or that. And ultimately, like what you want to do is, if you feel like it's a place you would love to train, at least apply. You know,
Yeah.
you put your name in the hat for a good handful of schools. And I want to ask you, like, did that help you just lower the pressure, knowing that you were putting your, spreading a wide net or casting a wide net? Did that kind of lower the pressure on audition day at all for you?
Yeah, it definitely did because I was like, man, if I throw that dart, it's gonna hit one target at least. You know what I mean? Like, I can't miss all of them. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the thought process for sure.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
was.
it definitely did help, and I think also it helped during the process of like, the after you get the first few auditions out of the way, like your later auditions, like you're a lot less nervous as well, and you're a little bit more in that flow state. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Right, and we try our best to support you with that. I know you remember the mock auditions. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so we'll get into that, but I would love to know kind of like how the uh, coaching journey and the sort of the coaching and the sessions and all that stuff leading up to the first audition helped you. Did you have to do any pre-screens?
No, I didn't. No, because I was a resident in the States. So yeah.
Well, very cool. So we've heard your schools. Let's hear about like monologues. How did you start searching? Do you remember when you like, where did you search for monologues? How did you know which monologues were for you?
So yeah, sort of multifaceted with the question because it's really weird for me is that so when I first started searching was actually when you gave me the list. Like it was really early on. You give everyone a list like once we joined the program of like a bunch of different monologues to read essentially in the plays and the playwrights. And so that's when I first started. But in terms of how I came about choosing each monologue was really kind of like I don't want to sound like spiritually holistic, but like it really was kind of like they fell into place of like through like life experience. Someone would give me a play to read, or like someone would recommend something, and then they would sort of fall into place like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, you got to be open to that.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I think what I'm hearing is like you were just wanting. I remember you telling me this. You were really ready to prepare. You wanted to
yeah,
prepare. You weren't trying to shortchange the process or find shortcuts. And so when we gave you our list, and again, our list is extensive for anyone who doesn't know. It's just a 500 plus monologues for people to read, but it doesn't mean that we recommend specific ones for you. It just means
yeah,
you have to be reading material like no one else, and you'll come across things. And in the doing of that, it sounds like you also were open to other sources where monologues
yeah.
can come from. How many monologues did you end up having in your back pocket ready to go?
I had five, but I really only performed four of them.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess so I had Sebastian from Twelfth Night, obviously, and then Richard the Third. Well, he wasn't Richard the Third yet, Richard of Gloucester from Henry the Sixth, Part Three. And then I had Beth from The Jungle, and then I had Miles from Gloria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. I can't wait to dig in more to how we worked on those.
Yeah.
But when would you say that you kind of got those? Do you feel like you kind of staggered it, or was it all kind of in 1 month?
No, it was definitely staggered. Like I had I think the first one that I like for sure like pinpointed that I was gonna do was Sebastian from 12th Night. And that one was weird. That one was a theater teacher that I was taking classes at South Coast Rep. And one of the theater teachers was like, "Hey, I think that this monologue would really," and I had never read 12th Night. And he was like, "I think this monologue would really work for you." And I remember reading it, and it really was one of those moments of like connecting with the piece. It was like, I don't know how else to describe it other than the second I read it, even though it was an obviously heightened text and it was Shakespearean and I didn't really understand it, I felt like I knew what I was saying. And so
Mm,
it was like a clicked moment.
yeah, gotta love that. Uh,
Yeah.
Shakespeare's a beast when you haven't had a lot of experience, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
but no, I'm so glad. So you found that. I was going to ask kind of how long until you found all of them? Was it over the course of a couple months, or like, would you remember when you found your very last one?
Yeah, it was like a week or two before. So I last one was Miles from Gloria. It was like a week or two before the auditions, and I was like even doubting it. I was thinking, should I even do this? Like this doesn't seem right. It's 2 weeks. I don't have a lot of time to prepare. But I pulled trigger on it and I was like, okay, executive decision. I'm gonna do it. It feels good. I want to do that. So yeah.
Well, you know what we say. I think I've probably said this on other conversations, but we definitely tell our students this. I'm sure we told you. You always have to keep reading.
Yeah.
And for people like you who are already in the rhythm and the momentum of preparing, you've been working on this monologue, that monologue, you know, you can kind of whip up a monologue really quickly if you're already in that rhythm. And so it sounds
Yeah.
like you kind of were continuing to read even deep into the process, just in case anything struck. And boom, you find this thing that struck, you whip it up within 2 weeks, and there you go. Did you ever
Yeah.
perform that for any of the schools, Gloria?
Yeah, no, my actually, funny enough, I think that was one of the pieces that helped with Columbia because they asked me to work on that piece both times during the initial audition and then during the callback audition. So
Dang,
yeah, so I guess it ended up being the piece that like kind of helped me with to get into Columbia. So
that's awesome. Now,
yeah.
did you just trust yourself? Like, you're like, I feel this, or did you kind of second guess yourself? Did you need to get validation from kind of a third party, or were you just like, let me tell me how you felt about that when you put that up on its feet within 2 weeks?
With so actually, because I was working with John at the time, and so I felt like the piece, it felt so good to perform, and I felt like I really connected with it. And my gut instinct was like, let's go for this 100%. But I did feel like a little bit of insecurity. But luckily, John, like after talking with John, he was like, if you feel this way, you should just trust your gut instinct and you should just go for it. And so, yeah, that's kind of what helped. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I want to hear more about what happened on the day of the audition. We will get there, but I wanted to go back real quick to Shakespeare because so many of us have no clue or just no experience, and we feel a distance from the material, right? How do I make this even feel real? What do I do with my voice and speech? Did you have those questions? Like what was some of the things you tackled with Shakespeare that made it feel more real for you and believable?
I guess the biggest thing for me was to make it sound like, I don't know how else to say other than natural, not playing to the rhythm of the words and not stopping dramatically at the end of the line ending. But also not blowing past it because it is like an end of a thought, right? So you kind of have to play with this sort of, and that's why it's an art, right? So you have to play with this feeling, these the line endings, and also what Shakespeare does, right, is that he has a lot of he tells you kind of how to play things based off the punctuation of the line, which is so interesting. But playing with those things and just doing it like 1,000 times until you find intentionality behind everything is a really huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't underestimate that, everyone who's listening. Uh,
Yeah.
1,000 times. This is such a man. You got to run these pieces so much. Did you ever get burnt out or lose inspiration? Like, what was the? relationship with your pieces as you ran them a million times?
No, 100%. There was a period of time, and I was working. This was also working with John, and throughout the course of, because I pretty much almost exclusively worked with John on these pieces, and there was a period of time, like in the beginning, where John and I were both like, we got this like natural high after after a couple of our sessions because we were like, whoa, like the work was amazing, we did great. And then towards like the middle of the process, I remember after the session was done, John and I would just look at each other and we were just kind of like, same time next week, same time next day. Like it was just kind of like a, yeah, it didn't really go that great, but let's keep pushing forward. And then towards the end, it just like, you make a new discovery or something, you find something interesting to play with, and then it comes back up again. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah. I mean, you sometimes you could just go through that emotional roller coaster like, should I throw this piece away?
Yeah.
Do I need to throw my applications away?
Yeah, yeah,
And then like, I'm the best actor in the world.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
didn't anybody see that run through? Somehow you
yeah,
have to find a way to just bring it like at the first time, every time, and hope. Did you have
yeah.
that experience where when you go to these auditions, you don't know what's the outcome going to be, but did you feel like you at least put yourself out there authentically? Did you feel like the work was what you had worked on and wanted to present?
I think so, to like a certain extent, yes. But for example, for Columbia, it was really interesting because before I did Columbia, I essentially got like a bunch of no's from NYU first, and then Yale and Juilliard. So I was kind of like in a state where I was like, man, I got all these no's. Like, what am I doing wrong? And by the time I got to Columbia, and excuse my French, I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna try something completely different. And I remember when I went into the audition room, it was something as big as like I remember for one of the pieces, I decided to use a chair, and I had never used a chair before ever. Like I had done it standing the entire time. And so essentially I was like kind of making discoveries in that exact moment, which I think was helpful because it was a very first time kind of feeling. And so I
Yeah.
think it came off that way.
Yes. You kind of almost like jolted yourself into the present moment.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know and I can understand how, yeah, you could get lost in the emotion of rejection and all that, and that can totally cloud you when you're going into your next audition, or it could have the opposite effect where you did what you did, which is like, F it, I'm here, I'm gonna do something to mess shit up and be like,
Yeah.
jolt myself in the present moment. That's a bold choice.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought I have nothing to lose. I had the no anyway, so I may as well just have fun with it and try something new.
That's amazing. Do you
Yeah.
feel that you heard, I'm sure all the time, as everyone does, just be you. They want you, right? Did you feel that you came through in that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I realized throughout the process is it's you saying these words. You're not necessarily putting on a character, but you're trying to live in that imaginary circumstance as yourself. Like how would you say those words if you were actually in that circumstance, that lived circumstance? And so that was when that sort of thought process clicked for me, it all kind of started to make sense. Like you don't have to put on an act. You're not like acting. You're just being kind of like, yeah.
I'll just put that in quotes and
Yeah, you're just
confuse,
being.
confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There is a sense of being that you have to be courageous enough to just see and be seen, is the way that our Juilliard teachers taught us. And you know, auditions for drama school are not the auditions for the production, right? When you're
Yeah.
auditioning for the production, it's really about fitting the director's vision of that character, and sometimes you really need to put on a character, and so to
Yeah.
speak. But this is more about showcasing who you are as an artist, and that is a lot. You're using the monologue text and the monologue to really like follow your own impulses and voice and put yourself out there. It's kind of a cool audition.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, it was a fun process. And I think that also something that you mentioned like a long time ago was that ultimately you end up where you're supposed to end up because they're gonna want you for who you are. So if like for example, right, I didn't get into Juilliard, it just means that I wasn't a good fit. Like both ways, you know what I mean? They weren't a good fit for me and I wasn't a good fit for them. So it's like, but with Columbia it was, and it's just kind of like a perfect match being made. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
you felt that. I mean, clearly you did because you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And they obviously accepted you. So what are you looking forward to most? Is there one thing or one person or one class, part of the curriculum that stands out to you as special?
Yeah, so this year, Ron Vanloo came out of retirement and he's teaching us first years. Yeah, so it was like a explosion moment because he's obviously like a very legendary figure in the world of teaching acting. So I'm very excited to learn from him and hear all this wisdom and just soak it all in. Like I'm probably just gonna stand there with my jaw up and being like the whole time, like
That's awesome. I didn't know he did that. That's new to
yeah.
me.
Yeah, we
Very
just got
cool.
the email like a couple weeks ago. It's still yeah, yeah,
For those of you listening who don't know, Ron Van Loo was the head of Yale for 30 plus years. Um, so he started Columbia University's MFA acting program. I don't
yeah,
know how long ago, a few years ago. It's relatively new. But that's so cool. He's in the acting class.
yeah,
I'm into
yeah. I'm
acting.
very excited. Yeah,
Well, keep playing bold, keep playing full out,
yeah,
don't hold back just because your jaw's on the floor.
yeah. No, no, I'm definitely full sending it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Let's talk about this journey. So let's talk about a little bit into the weeds of working on these pieces, how you felt when you broke through and made discoveries, and how you felt kind of like, dark moment of the soul. Um, can you give me a high and a low throughout your process? Do you remember having a super high emotional moment? I know you kind of mentioned it with John, but maybe
yeah.
with Shakespeare or with Gary or with any of the other, just even in your alone in your room, and then maybe a low moment that you can remember.
So actually there with Shakespeare, it's very interesting. I had a very low and high moment during my Lambda audition. So I went in kind of, obviously working on Richard and having an idea of how to play it, right? For example, like there's a moment in the monologue where you stab Henry, right? And the way I was playing it was I was only stabbing him, I don't know, maybe like once or twice. Um, and I just remembered not ever reaching some sort of like really high emotional state. The stakes weren't high enough, right? And I remember the auditor, his name slips my mind right now, but I remember him asking me a lot of questions about why I'd only stabbed him twice. When later on, when Margaret unveils Henry's body, she notices that he had been stabbed by a wild creature like 100 times, right? Because of a fit of rage. So when he had given me those directions or that new insight, and then he was directing me through that monologue, and I had changed from only stabbing Henry's body twice to like 100 times, and sort of with every word driving the dagger in, that had changed everything, and it had changed the way I had played the entire monologue, and it was crazy. I was making discoveries in the moment. The stakes were high, the emotions were high, but not forced. It was just happening naturally. And so that was a really walking out of that audition, just being like, yeah, like on a natural high, like walking on cloud nine, feeling like I'd really given it all in that moment.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, it's great when the audition itself feels like a workshop.
Yeah.
And I know John says this all the time. I definitely double down. We all say this. If you can be playful enough or willing in the room to explore genuinely and be open to actually making a discovery, not forcing it or projecting that, but actually just be sensitive to your imagination and take that direction, you can discover something that you could totally take with you. It sounds like you did.
No, I did, and then I did that same monologue in the same way that how I was directed at Lambda for Cal Arts. And I remember the one of the auditors from Cal Arts had he kind of pulled me to the side after and was like, "Hey, I have this exact monologue in my book of pieces that I do for auditions, and you performed it like the way that I would perform it. And he was giving me a lot of compliments, and I just felt like, wow, that felt great, from like a from an actor who I look to tell that to me just felt really great. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, Very cool. Any low moment that you can think of where you were just like questioning the whole thing, or did you feel like you weathered those pretty well? Did you have a real shaky foundation at any point, or somebody say something to you that threw you off?
Um, I never had a moment where anyone said anything. Actually, I think I've been very fortunate that everyone was just giving me like positive vibes the whole time. But there was a lot of moments where I was like, what am I doing? Because I feel like when you don't reach, or maybe the stakes aren't high enough and you don't reach the sort of emotional level that you would like to in your pieces, it can be kind of disheartening because you feel like you're not doing it right. You're not doing the right thing. And I definitely had a lot of those moments um, with all of the monologues. To be honest, there was highs and it was an emotional roller coaster all the time. I remember with Sebastian, for example, it wasn't until literally the last um the I think it was in fact like a couple days before my audition with Columbia that John and I made this realization, and he helped me. It was kind of like you said, a workshop where he was like, at the end of each line, instead of standing still or just moving or just looking in a different direction, keep walking, like walk, and then when it's a change of thought, walk in a different direction. And that had changed my perspective completely, because then it had allowed me to play those moments of the change of thought at the end of the line endings. And it had allowed me to piece that together, rather than if I was just standing still, I wasn't making the shift clear enough. And then I did that during the audition, and I think it really helped. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our goal as coaches is to really take what you're doing and your natural instincts and your sense of play and everything and just keep the channel open.
Yeah.
We often stop ourselves from going to a level 10, or we stop ourselves from connecting the dots from thought to thought, like you said, and stringing together something that is a real compelling emotional journey. And so we just, yeah, we have obviously a lot of exercises and just, but you
Yeah.
clearly were putting yourself out there. He probably wouldn't have thought of that unless you were already doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Man, sounds like highs and lows all the
A
time.
lot of highs and lows. Yeah. A lot. Yeah.
You're going to be okay for the next 3 years?
No, I definitely will be. I mean, I think that there still will be highs and lows, but I think that's it's like kind of corny to say, but you just got to enjoy that journey. You just got to enjoy the highs and the lows, because I feel like after every low is usually when you make a discovery. It's usually like when you're like you're sleep like I had moments where I'd be sleeping and I'd wake up at like 3 in the morning, just like out of bed, be like, oh, that's what it is. That's the intentionality behind that word or that phrase. Like, I get it now. It's because I was
Wow.
thinking about it like 24/7.
Yeah, it's hard. That's true. Like we these pieces marinate.
Yeah,
Um, if you're really like excited about this process and you really are committed to going all in, inevitably it's kind of on your mind all the time. You
yeah,
know, whether you're a student who's got a full-time, you're a full-time student, or you have a full-time job, or somewhere in between, if you're all in on this process, it's kind of a thing. Thank goodness you could just let that go now.
yeah.
Um,
No, yeah.
but
For now.
obviously, yeah, exactly. You'll
Yeah,
you'll get into a new character at Columbia, and then you'll
yeah,
be walking around New York City like that character.
yeah. Pretty much. Yeah,
But I'm very excited for you. It sounds like you really put your imagination, you fully committed, you know. I was going to ask you one question. I forgot. So if I think of it, I'll ask. But I want to go into Colombia. I want to find
yeah.
out what happened in the room. I know you said you kind of had the F it mentality. You pulled out the chair. You just played. Was there a callback process? What did they say to you? If we could be a fly on the wall, take us into your experience and ultimately to the call that you got the acceptance on.
Yeah. So, Columbia it was in the same building. It was at the ACT building in San Fran. That's where I did all my auditions for like Yale, Juilliard, NYU. And but it was different in the sense that like they didn't do like a warm up. the other schools, they kind of took you aside in the beginning. You did a little warm up. Columbia didn't do that, which I actually kind of liked because they had you in this room and you could kind of like do your own warm up with everyone else and like strike up conversation, like get into your own headspace, like whatever you wanted to do essentially. And so that's where I met Kanika, uh, and she was like helping sort everyone out in the audition process. It was very chill, and she was like, "Okay, you're going on in like 15 minutes. Like, do your thing, get ready." And so I did, and then I went into the room, and there was I think four auditors there. It was Sita Mani, James Whitehurst, James Caleri, and I think one of the students, it was a MFA student. I think he's a second or third year. I don't recall his name though. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But so we worked on the pieces. I had the effort moment. I felt pretty good about it, and they thanked me, and then I left the room, right? And essentially pretty much like a minute after I left the room and I went back into the waiting room, Kanika called me over to like her desk, and I went over and she was like, "Hey, like they want to see you again in maybe like 10, 15 minutes after they're done seeing some other folks." And I was like, "No way. This is cool. This is awesome. Like this is great." And I remember she gave me a brochure and I like sat down on the chair just kind of like beaming, like I must have been glowing because I was so happy. I felt great. And afterwards I went back in and introduced myself again, said hello, talked a little bit for like 5-10 minutes, just kind of like how are you sort of questions, like it wasn't anything about acting even. And then we jumped into working on Miles from Gloria. Sidamani had asked me to use, instead of like doing it to an imaginary person, which I had been doing it to, was to use the student as like as a person, as a position to look into. And I did that and I played around with it, and it did change a couple of my choices in the way that I played it, um, which I think they must have liked, or they must have seen something they liked. And then they thanked me, and they asked me if I had any questions for them. And at that point, I had asked them like, how many performance opportunities do you have? Like, what is the general gist of the class? Like, how does the class schedule look? Um, and and then we said our goodbyes essentially, and I left and I felt good. And they were like, if you end up getting a callback, we'll let you know in a couple weeks, and if not, we'll let you know if you didn't. And I was like, okay. And sort of just left it up to fate, you know what I mean? And fortunately I did get the email that I was getting the callback, so I had to go to New York in March for the callback weekend. So yeah, I was excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think that's something that we talk about big time, and you displayed it there, which is not only is your quality of work important, you clearly made an impression with your quality of work initially, but the ability to take direction.
Yeah.
You're not auditioning for this role, right? You're auditioning for a learning institution. You're a multiple year training relationship. So the ability to train in the moment and the ability to take direction, explore something, potentially discover a new, that's also part of the audition. They want to see if you're sensitive and willing to pour yourself into a whole new way of doing it that may be different than what you came in with. How malleable are you? Did you feel like you really, I mean, I guess, yeah, you shared that it was different. It felt different for you.
Yeah. And like by no means do I think I'm this fucking sorry for swearing, this amazing actor. I'm definitely not. 100% learning, but one of the traits that I think that I do have that is really good is that I do take direction very well, and I'm very open to taking direction. And it's something that James told me that I was unaware of myself that I had that in me, but something that James had told me during the process is that I am very like open to taking direction. And I think that is something that helps a lot, is just being willing to play, right? If they ask you to do something, just try it. You never know. It could work, it could not work, but you may as well try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they're not looking for some sort of right answer.
Yeah.
They're just looking to find out what's going to happen now. And so, to the degree that you can have that same mentality and let it rip, that's going to be where the best work comes out.
Yeah,
It's hard though. It's
yeah,
we're talking like but the doing of it, it takes courage.
yeah, yeah.
And I know that, well, so I want to hear about Callback Weekend, and then I want to hear about when you officially found out. So how did Callback Weekend go? What were your expectations? Net it out for us, but then when did you find out for real that you got in?
Yeah, so Callback Weekend was actually super cool. I went in with zero expectations. I'd never been to Columbia before. I had never I spent a little bit of time in New York, but always in downtown because my sister goes to NYU. So I'd never been up to the upper west side where Columbia is at. And so I had no idea what I was getting into. And I got there, I went to the Nash building, which is where all the acting studios are, and you go up to, I think it's like the third or fourth floor in the building. Kanika was there again. She was like helping everyone get sorted. They give you food, like you beforehand you had to fill out like a little questionnaire of like what kind of sandwich you wanted or something like that. And so they had food waiting for you. You had lunch, and then once that was over, we had they led us through a movement and voice class, which was super cool because like you're getting trained from the Columbia MFA faculty already without actually even being in their program. So it was super cool, and actually some of the current students even joined in. It was really cool. We were in the big studio room, and you get your yoga mats out, and they lead you through the breathing exercises and the stretches, and it really helped me get grounded for like going through the audition process again, which was like very cool. And then also, I feel like it brings you closer in a weird way to the folks who are also auditioning because y'all are going through the same thing. You know what I mean? So then you
Mhm.
don't feel like nervous because sometimes you get like uh social anxiety or something because like there's all these people that you've never met before and you're in a room with them and it's kind of weird, kind of awkward. But then once you go through that movement and speech class with them, it's like, okay, like we're all doing this together, it's all good, and kind of dispels the nerves as well.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so it's cool.
Was it
um
a 2 day? Yeah, how long was it?
the movement was like 15 minutes or
I
so.
mean, the overall Callback Weekend.
Oh, it was just one day. It was just one full day, pretty
Got
much. Yeah.
That's like
Um,
classes. Did they have you talk about interviews anymore? Like, did they take you into one-on-one? Did they work on your monologues again, or was it all just like a day of classes?
yeah, so it wasn't like a day of classes. We only had those two, I guess, like classes, and then we went into and we actually performed our pieces. And then after we performed our pieces, um, they would do like a mini callback within the callback where they would call you back and be like, "Hey, do you have any questions?" And I remember at that point, James Cleary had asked me, he was like, "So do you have any other questions?" And I had yapped so much during the first round of auditions, like asking them so many questions. I was just like, no, like I think I chewed your guys' ear off the first time. I don't think I have any questions. And like kind of got a little bit of a laugh in the room. So yeah, and so that was pretty much it for that. Yeah.
There you go. And
Yeah.
so the waiting began. When did you find out? How did you find out?
Yeah, so actually for me, I think it was really weird that I didn't have to wait that long. So I was going back to California the next day. I had breakfast with my sister and I got into the Uber. And as I'm going to the airport, I get a call from a New York number. And I thought it was like, maybe like a scam or something like that. I wasn't expecting a call. And I pick up the call and it's James and he's like, "Hey, how are you? Like, how do you feel about everything? How'd you like it yesterday?" And obviously I was like, "It was amazing. This was like a perfect moment for me." And he was like, "So we would love to offer you a spot in next year's cohort." And I was like, I don't think I responded for like a full minute or 30 seconds or something because it didn't feel real in the moment. And he's like, "So what do you think about that?" And I was like, I think that's perfect. I think that's amazing. Like, yes, like I want to do that. Um, so it was really cool. I remember I was trembling, like after the call, like after I'd hung up, I was like shaking with excitement. And I called the first people I called obviously were my parents. I was like, "Guys, like it worked out. We made it." Because I think they were the ones who were like, I mean, like my parents are like, they're very Bosnian and so the concept of this happening to them didn't really like make sense, you know what I mean? And so I think once I told them that I actually got into to a program, especially a program like Columbia's program, they were like, "Whoa, no way." Yeah,
That's amazing. How
yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
I remember one thing you were telling me when we first met was that you really wanted to, you had gotten a taste of what it feels like to be vulnerable on stage,
yeah.
and that you really want to continue to solidify how, like a process for how to continue to be vulnerable across all your work. Do you feel like you've been able to grow in that area?
Yeah, 100%. And not just through the lens of like acting or like performing, but I think it's also impacted me as like a person, as a human being. Like um I'll start conversations now with people on the street, which is something I've never done before, and I think I really attribute that to going through a lot of that process of vulnerability and vulnerability training throughout this journey. Um, Not just through working on these monologues, but also pursuing the art the way I have, like the ability to be able to go to ACT over the summer and train there, and then taking classes at the community college and sort of all those things together really, yeah, really helped me into like being able to show my vulnerability, and it not only did it help the work, but it also helped me in like my life as well. So yeah,
Vulnerability sometimes is viewed as like um, weakness or softness or something, but to me, you displayed vulnerability beautifully, not only in your work, but in your sincere intent. You always ask questions. You wanted to check in. You were very plugged in. That's the word. And that is a sign of vulnerability, that someone
yeah,
is all in, that someone
yeah,
is committed, that someone is willing to go through the highs and lows. So vulnerability isn't always just one moment or one feeling. It's I think you really practice that in the coaching sessions and outside the coaching sessions. So big achievement, man. Big achievement.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Thank you for sharing. This has been so cool
Yeah,
to reflect. How do you
yeah.
feel?
I feel great. Like I said earlier, it still hasn't fully hit me. I think it'll hit me like in New York. You know what I mean? So I'm still in California now. It still doesn't feel real. Like things haven't changed fully yet. So it's like
Don't
once
worry,
I'm
they're not gonna, your name's gonna be on the list, man.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm worried about. I keep thinking like I'm gonna get there and they're gonna be like, sorry, you're not in this program. It's like,
Get
no.
the emails. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, no, it's so great. It's such a huge life change. Like, literally your location, your whole day's schedule, like in your future, like it's a whole life change. So embrace it as you do. And obviously we will stay in touch. I would love to hear whether it's one last um message for our audience, as you wrap up and button up this journey of auditioning and getting into great school, like whether it's about vulnerability or whether it's about plugging in or just being in the work, or however you would say to these people, like what should they keep their mind on as they go off to drama school auditions?
um yes, this is something that one of my teachers told me, and hopefully this I can impart this wisdom on other folks as well. Is that try and it's not just about the work, but it's about your life as well. Like live your life to the fullest, and that will help your work. Like really enjoy life, and take the things that you work on and implement it in your life, and vice versa. I think that's something when that clicked for me and I started sort of enjoying life more, helped me enjoy the process more. And then both of the things interconnected and intertwined. And the process became my life and the life became my process. And I think that's what like led me to waking up at 3 in the morning, realizing the intentionality behind certain things, and so helping me with my monologue. So I hope
Yeah,
that if anyone hears this or watches this, that that's what they take away from it.
that's awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. That's great. Yeah, art reflects life, and life reflects art. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful dance, and you
Yeah.
put it perfectly. So, well, with that, man, we will talk soon. Thank you for sharing everything. We'll wrap this up, and I'm sure I'll see you in New York.
Yeah, definitely soon. Yeah, you're in New York. That's gonna be sick. Yeah. Yeah.
My friend, we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah. Talk soon.
All right, Imran.
All right. Bye.